Ready to go? First of all, we will call our meeting to order. It'll be a roll call. Manager Waller.
Present.
Manager Wynant.
Present.
Manager Bradley.
Present.
Manager Wagaman.
Present.
And Manager Preiner present. Next thing will be to set the agenda.
President Preiner, staff have no changes.
Okay. And I think for the record also at this point, we'll have anybody that's phoned in or online, please identify themselves, name and address, and reason for being here. Anybody on the phone?
What's happening with the advisals and the rerouting of these 62 and the upcoming events with Ellington and Lanier.
Public hearing.
Did you receive that name, President?
Jerry, OJ? Is that correct?
You have it? All right.
Okay. And then there should be Rebecca, City of Blaine is on? No? Okay,
Yeah.
and how about anybody else?
Mark Hall, resident in Blaine, Rendova Street.
Anybody else out there?
Brian Olson with Ramsey Soil and Water, just here in case there's questions on the cost share projects today.
Thank you, Brian. Is that everybody?
Kyle Axtell here as well, just listening in.
Say it again.
Kyle Axtell here.
Oh, hi,
Street,
Kyle.
Just
Okay.
listening in.
No problem. Okay, everybody's out there. So we set the agenda. There are no changes. I need a motion, please.
Move to approve agenda.
Second.
Motion by Steve Wagaman to approve the agenda and John Waller second. Any further discussion? There'll be a roll call. Manager Waller,
Yes.
Manager Wynant,
Yes.
Manager Bradley,
Yes.
Manager Wagaman,
Yes.
and I say yes. Okay, the next thing is the approval of the minutes.
Madam President, I move to approve the April 22nd, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Manager Wynant seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Oh, can't go all, but Manager Waller,
Yes.
Manager Wynant,
Yes.
Manager Bradley,
Yes.
Manager Wagaman,
Yes.
and Manager Preiner, yes. Okay, motion passed. Next thing is the consent agenda. Nick? Or Patrick, I don't know which one.
Yeah, I can jump in.
Okay.
Sure. Hi, board managers. This is Patrick Hughes. Today on the consent agenda, we have 3 permit applications for your consideration. That starts on page 21 of your packet. There will be a 4th application that's not on the consent agenda. That's in conjunction with the public hearing and the variance request. We do have one proposed change that is on page 32 for permit application 1979. It's just a simple change here in exhibit 15. It lists the received date of August 28th, 2020. That should be August 28th of 2019.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions of the board on any of these consent agenda items? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, Bradley, I move that we conditionally approve pending receipt of changes the 3 items listed in our packet and the consent agenda, which are projects 16-027, 20-013, 19-079, as contained in the engineer's findings and recommendations as contained in the engineer's report dated May 6, 2020.
Manager Wynant.
seconds.
Manager Wynant second, okay. And any further discussion? There'll be a roll call. Manager Waller,
Yes.
Manager Winan,
Yes.
Manager Bradley,
Yes.
Manager Wageman,
Yes.
and Manager Priner, yes, motion passes. Okay, we will move on to, I believe it's Lauren.
Good morning, President Priner, Board of Managers. For your consideration today are 2 cost share applications on the consent agenda as well. And these applications start on page 44 in your packets.
Okay, and now this is because it's on the consent agenda. It's just a matter if anybody wants to pull out any information. Any questions for Lauren? With that, I'll need a motion.
Madam President, this is Manager Bradley. I move we approve the water quality grant consent agenda for items number 820-03, no, R20-03 by focus, and
Yes.
R20-04. Based on the established program guidelines dated May 6, 2020, in accordance with RCWD staff's recommendation.
Manager Wagaman, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, Manager Waller,
Yes.
Manager Winan,
Yes.
Manager Bradley,
Yes.
Manager Wageman,
Yes.
and I say yes. So, Patricia Priner, yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to recess our regular meeting and go to our public hearing for May 13th, 2020. Welcome to the public hearing on the petition of Wellington Management Incorporated and Alliance Bank for the realignment and partial abandonment of portion of Anoka County Ditch 5362. For this hearing, the Watershed District Manager is seated as a drainage authority for Anoka County Ditch 5362. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, pursuant to the Minnesota Statutes 13D.021, meetings of the Board of Managers are currently being convened remotely by teleconference or video teleconference. Notice was previously provided with instructions on how to participate in today's hearing. I ask that those of you in attendance remotely mute your microphones until it is your turn to speak. The purpose of the hearing is to receive comments from the public on the petition in order to inform the board of the public's concerns. Our decision of the petition is based on the following standards found in Minnesota Statute Section 103E227 and Section 103E806. For the proposed realignment based on the engineer's report and other evidence presented, will the action proposed A, be of public or private benefit, and B, impair the utility of the drainage system, or C, deprive affected landowners of the drainage system's benefit. And for the partial abandonment, once the drainage system is realigned with the portion of the drainage system orphaned by the realignment, A, serve a substantial useful purpose as part of the drainage system to any property remaining in the system, or B, provide substantial public benefits and utility. If the board finds that the action will be of public service and private benefit, and that the answers to the remaining questions are no, then the board will make an order of modifying the drainage system as requested in the petition. To facilitate today's comments at today's hearings, notice of the time and location of the hearing was mailed to the petitioners, owners of the property, and political subdivisions likely to be affected by the proposed action. The board received a petition and a bond from Wellington Management Incorporated with the support of the landowner Alliance Bank for the realignment of the portion of Anoka County Ditch 5362, including the main trunk and branches 4 and 5 for the abandonment of the remnant or orphan portion of the drainage system if the realignment is granted. The board accepted the petition and bond under the statutes 103E227 and 103E806 and appointed Houston Engineering to prepare a report assessing the impact of the proposed action. Houston Engineering completed its work and filed a report with the board. The petition and the engineer's report were made available for review at the district's offices and its website in advance of the hearing and will be reviewed today. Please note that our proceedings are being recorded. The order of business for the hearing is as follows. First, Mr. Townsend, the district administrator, will introduce a presentation of information related to the petition of the action. Mr. Townsend will be assisted by Mr. Cole, the district's legal counsel, and Mr. Oden is the district's engineer. Following the staff presentation, I will open the hearing for public comment. The board would like to hear public comments and concerns regarding this proposed action. Our decision must be based on legal requirements to the petition action, as well as the engineer's report and other evidence presented. During the public hearing, managers may ask questions of staff and consultants and making presentations or of commenters in order to clarify any testimony. In addition, if a member of the public asks a question, a manager believes that a response from the district staff or district consultant can readily resolve the question or enrich the testimony, the manager may ask me to have the appropriate staff member or consultant speak to the question. However, a manager's expression of their positions and general discussion concerning the subject of the public hearing should be avoided during the public comment portion of the hearing. Board discussion will occur after all members of the public have had a chance to speak and the public comment period has closed. Board discussions may occur and be concluded at this or subsequent meeting as the board decides. Are there any board members that have any questions or comments right now? Anybody? Okay, if not, Mr. Tomczyk will proceed.
Yes, President Preiner, Board of Managers, we've worked with Houston Engineering for a presentation and they'll share that with you now. I have no other introduction that I find necessary at this time.
Okay, thank you. I believe we're going to Chris, right?
Sorry, I had my mute on. Madam President, Board of Managers, again, we're here to discuss the petition for the realignment of an Oak County Ditch 5362 and partial abandonment. What you see on the screen here is the rough location of where this alignment is. It's north of, or actually on both sides of County State Aid Highway 12, just to the west of Lexington Avenue. Basis for the review, the petition purpose was to realign the county ditch to accommodate a land development. This land development is referred to as North Meadows. That land development is on the north side of County State Aid Highway 12. Under Statute 103E 227, impounding, rerouting, and diverting drainage system waters, the project to be approved must be a public or private benefit, not impair the utility of the ditch, and not deprive affected landowners of benefit. Other pertinent statute is Statute 103E 805, partial abandonment of drainage system, which requires a determination that the part of the drainage system no longer serves a substantial purpose, benefit, or utility. So the general area of the project area is shown on this map in purple. That is the area of the North Meadows project. The proposed realignment affects the main trunk that I've indicated on the map here, which flows from north to south. And also affects branch 4, which flows from east to west along the right-of-way of County State Highway 12, and also affects branch 5, which flows from west to east along that same highway. And just for reference, we did work on or address a previous modification to Oak County Ditch 5362 a couple of years ago. This is a part of the Lexington Meadows plat. You can see on this particular project, and this is again on the north side of 109th Avenue or CASA 12. There was a similar realignment that also affected branches 4, 5, and the main trunk. And the nature of the realignment that we're considering now is very similar to the one that occurred here on Lexington Meadows on the south side of CASA 12. So what is being proposed is modifications to 3 different branches. First, beginning with the main trunk, that portion of Oak County Ditch 5362 is proposed to be realigned to be coincident with the west side of the development. It will then cross 109th Avenue or CASA 12 through an existing culvert under that highway. The size of that existing culvert is identical to the one that the main trunk currently goes through under CASA 12. And the petition would abandon the remnants of the main trunk on the parcel that would no longer be conveying the public drainage system flow. Branch 4 would be extended west along the previous main trunk alignment. And when I say extended west, I mean that essentially portions that already considered to be the main trunk would now be renamed to be branch 4. There would be no work along this portion of the drainage system. Similarly, on branch 5, there's going to be a portion that currently is referred to as branch 5 that would be redesignated to be the main trunk to join up with where the new location of the crossing is under CASA 12. So this map I have shown here on the screen now shows the current alignment of the main trunk, branch 4 and branch 5, the main trunk being in, red on the screen here. Branch 4 is the green line on the screen and branch 5 is the purple line. We also can see on the screen here what the development plan generally looks like for that North Meadows plat. So the current alignment actually goes through a substantial portion of that proposed plat. And so in order to accommodate that plat, the petitioner is now petitioning to realign that public drainage system over to the west side of that development. And it'd be west of a larger pond that is located on along that development. And again, as you can see, there was a portion that was previously branch 5 in that purple line that is now going to be, again, redesignated as a main trunk. There's no actual work to be proposed. The open channel at that location right now it is sufficiently sized to handle the flow. Likewise, there is a portion that was previously designated as being main trunk that now will become branch 4, or that green line shown on the screen. Some of the design requirements that were considered in reviewing the proposed petition. The open channel must be constructed at the as constructed and subsequently improved grade. At this location, the as constructed grade is actually a flat grade. There's a 0% grade in this location. The bottom width needs to match the as constructed and subsequently improved condition, or greater than that width. And there needs to be 2-to-1 side slopes. An additional condition for this work is that there be a access corridor provided on one side of the drainage system. That access corridor would be 20 feet in width, have a longitudinal grade of a maximum of 20%, and a cross slope of a maximum of 5%. And these requirements are there to enable typical equipment used by the district to maintain the system to be able to access through, along with providing access for inspection purposes. In addition to that, there's a requirement per Rice Creek rules that an easement be provided over this access corridor and channel from bank to bank on the channel. We reviewed the accessibility along this realignment. I'll note that on the north-south portion of the realignment, there is a existing field road that is above the 100-year floodplain. We also looked at the new portion of the ditch that would be traveling from a northeast to southwest alignment. The existing ground surface there is about elevation 896. The ditch bottom is, or that as constructed ditch bottom would be 891.46. And then we compared that to the 210 and 100-year elevations, and the 2 and 10-year both are below the existing ground surface. The 100-year water surface elevation does pop up above that surface. We also reviewed the soils in this location, and the soils are supportive for be able to provide maintenance and access. So we've determined that the alignment as they have proposed is suitable for be able to complete this regular maintenance and inspection. So one of the requirements that we look at in determining whether it meets the criteria under Statute 103 is looking at the utility of the system. The proposed alignment and a partial abandonment will not change the capacity of the system. It will not change the drainage function either upstream or downstream of the system. And as I noted earlier, the location of the realignment is suitable. There are soils that are suitable for supporting that inspection and maintenance. Petitioners will be responsible for the cost of the realignment. However, the Rice Creek Watershed District, as the drainage will
and bridges, implants, digital design, orthodontics, removable prosthodontics, and other individualized care.
Hello?
As a family-owned and operated full-service dental laboratory, we take pride in providing a high level of quality and service. Let us know how we can help you today.
That's weird. Somebody's on hold, I think. They put us on
Thank you for
hold.
calling Brenstrom Dental Studio.
I'm gonna hang up and call back in.
And on Fridays by appointment
Sorry.
only.
Must be.
That's a new one.
Is that Mr. Scott James?
Okay.
Welcome to the conference assistant. That access code is not recognized. Please try again. Enter an access.
Okay. Do it again.
Welcome to the conference.
Oh, sorry. You should be.
I do the same thing, so.
Welcome to the conference assistant. Enter an access.
Deep breath. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Welcome to the conference. Enter an access.
There.
One moment while your call is connected.
I don't know what to do.
Just mute them.
I don't know. Hello?
Hello?
Who's on the line with me? I'm sorry, I can't hear you, mister. You know what? Are you the only one on the call line? There's someone else that put us on hold. Okay, can you? Hello? Can you call the office number and I'll talk to you and we'll get a different code? Can you call the office? Okay, thank you.
Teresa,
What?
this is Ashley. You can give him the call-in number that was generated as part of the Teams meeting.
Where is it?
It's in the meeting invite. I can get it out for you if you need it.
Okay. That or I was just gonna use another access code. Okay, I gotta go get the phone. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Or no, Chris. I just had 6 people on my screen for the first time. That never happened before, so I don't know. I don't know if it's updated too or what, but
This is a part of a public hearing. We're going to have to wait silently.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
I talked with Rick Wilder and I got him the conference, the team's phone number. We good? Did I lose everybody?
No, we're here. Yeah.
Okay.
It's-
That was weird.
he's-
Okay.
He's calling in.
Yep. So he should be calling into the Teams meeting on the computer. We just recently got that call-in number, so that should work.
Thank you.
President Priner, just to make that clear, so in the future, that the number that Ashley's now providing, you know, will eliminate the need for that conference line in the office. It was an upgrade to the software that we have, so we shouldn't see this in the future.
Okay, that's fine.
Except for anyone who puts you on hold, it's still going to cause that problem.
Yeah.
President Priner, Manager Bradley, I think we'll be able to control their communication through, because we have sent the invite. They'll be permitted into the meeting, but it should give the president more control of those in attendance. We'll have to work through that detail. I'll get the owner's manual out and we'll have to make sure we see it. Thank you.
Okay.
I think we're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Continue on, Mr. Adonis.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. So as I noted, the petitioners are responsible for the cost of the realignment. However, the Rice Creek Watershed District will continue to maintain responsibility of the drainage system as it would be realigned. The landowners that are traversed by the public drainage system that have culverts on the system still are responsible for those culverts. So any culverts that would potentially be placed by the petitioner over the drainage system, or the culverts that go underneath the county highway, would be responsibility of those particular landowners. Related to impacts and benefits of the project, there will be no impact to wetlands, floodplains, or runoff rates based on the proposed realignment. The benefit of this project is to accommodate development on the petitioner's property. So our conclusions are that the proposed modifications have a private benefit. They do not impair the utility of the public drainage system and do not deprive the affected landowners of benefit. Therefore, we recommend that the Drainage Authority, and I'm sorry, I have the wording on here wrong, but we do recommend that the Drainage Authority approve the petition for the realignment and partial abandonment of County Ditch 5362 as indicated in our report.
Okay.
And with that, I can answer any questions by the board.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Are we going to hear from Mr. Kolb today?
I think on a few occasions you might hear from me, Madam President, but as to the current matter before the board, I just wanted to run through and make sure that we were clear on the noticing requirements for the hearing today. We did notice by publication in the Pioneer Press on April 22nd, 29th, and May 6th. We noticed by publication in the Life Blaine, Spring Lake Park, Columbia Heights, Fridley newspaper on May 1st, 2020. We sent an email notice to the City of Blaine, Anoka County Highway Department, Wellington Management, Alliance Bank, and their consultant Carlson McCain on April 15th, 2020. We provided additional notice to those same entities by mail on April 16th, 2020. And then we sent by United States mail to all owners of property and political subdivisions affected by the petition that are within the sub-watershed boundaries of the ditch on April 23rd, 2020, and then posted notice of the hearing at the district website and at the district's offices on April 15th, and then via your email request notices went out on April 15th, 2020 to all those who have requested to receive email notice of such hearings. The notice, because of the unique situation of holding the hearing by alternative means and in order to provide an increase opportunity for people to review the materials and provide comment, you did include special language in your notice identifying that due to the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to the statute section previously referenced by you, Madam President, meetings of the board were being held under remotely by teleconference or other means. You invited members of the public interested in presenting comment by telephone or video conference to contact the district, and specifically gave Ashley Ritchie's contact information both by phone and email, and asked that those folks contact her by 4:30 p.m. yesterday in order to receive any codes necessary to participate in the meeting and in order to be placed on the list of folks willing to participate or wanting to participate in the hearing. You also gave very specific instructions in the notice on how to view the engineer's report and presentation materials by access to the Watershed District's website, and also gave contact numbers if anyone needed assistance accessing those information. And again, evidence of all these notices and the process by which you gave notice and provided this information is on file with the district and will be made part of the record of decision in the matter today.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? With that, I think we're ready to hear from the members of the public who wish to comment. But before we take public comment by those participating remotely, I ask that the written comments be read into the record at this time. Are there any written comments at this time?
Okay.
Any written comments? Ashley, did you receive any?
There are, Madam President, and I'm not sure if I mean, I'll take it if you want. We have actually 2 letters from Anoka County via their highway department, one dated March 19th and a second dated May 8th. And so I'm going to go through both of those without objection, Madam President.
Feel free.
The first letter dated March 19th, 2020 from Anoka County Highway Department to Nick Tomczyk. It says, Mr. Tomczyk, I'm ready to provide written comments for the public hearing scheduled for Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. This is back when we had it scheduled then. Regarding the realignment of Anoka County Ditch 5362. The subject ditch is under the jurisdiction of Rice Creek Watershed District, and the proposed alignment and location of this ditch is under and adjacent to County State 8 Highway 12, also known as 109th Avenue Northeast in the city of Blaine. We have reviewed Houston Engineering's technical memorandum dated February 13th, 2020, and associated attachments to that memorandum. Anoka County, through its highway department, provides the following comments for consideration. First item is right-of-way. Under section easement/maintenance corridor of the memorandum, there is a statement that requires and dedicates easements 75 foot along the new main trunk and 20-foot area for maintenance on one side of the ditch, with the public drainage system being defined as bank to bank. The county requests some clarification or perhaps an amended diagram in the memorandum to reflect the location of the proposed dedicated easements. It is not clear from the narrative, for example, what is dedicated south of County State 8 Highway 12 and parallel to the highway easement in terms of location. The Carlson McCain attachment entitled Proposed Conditions plan sheet on page 18 of the document suggests or indicates an existing 40-foot ditch easement. However, the county has not been able to confirm this in our investigation of the drainage and utility easement in this area, which appears to be 25 feet and 48 feet, both overlapping the south side of the existing County State 8 Highway 12 right-of-way. We will need petitioner's consultant to confirm how the 40-foot was dedicated to ensure we are all in agreement with the terms of those conditions. The county is currently investigating its public street, roadway, and utility drainage easements and other dedicated drainage and utility easement areas already designated in Lexington Meadows and Lexington Meadows 2 addition, and will provide that information to the Watershed District upon request. We would offer that the width of any easement dedicated for the ditch/drainage must not conflict with the highway right-of-way use that has previously been dedicated to the public. As part of the dedication process, the Anoka County Highway Department reserves the right to review with the district's engineering staff the location of the dedicated easements or easement adjacent to County State 8 Highway 12 to ensure there are no overlapping ditch easements that would conflict with current use of existing county highway right-of-way, including potential road or trail expansion. The county proposes that in connection with this realignment, the ditch/drainage easement on the abandoned portion and the realigned main trunk may potentially shift further to the south to avoid conflicts or future encroachments to the road or trail expansion on 109th Avenue Northeast that would likely occur or could likely occur in the future. Item number 2, existing highway culverts. The petitioner has proposed to realign the ditch to a common culvert crossing that is approximately 2,666 feet west of the center line of County State 8 Highway 17, also known as Lexington Avenue, crossing under County State 8 Highway 12. The proposed abandoned culvert under County State 8 Highway 12 on the east side of Branch 5 will need to be removed by the petitioner and will require the petitioner to obtain right-of-way permit through Anoka County Highway Department. The county has inspected and determined that the culvert is in good condition and has been determined that the existing pipe is a 60-inch reinforced concrete pipe, which seems appropriate for existing and increased flow conditions. Nevertheless, the county reserves the right to investigate further during the permitting process due to the potential contingencies from the realignment. For example, it is possible that the realignment or shifting of the main trunk ditch south of County State 8 Highway 12 may require the petitioner to extend the culvert under County State 8 Highway 12 with light materials to ensure capacity and location within the right-of-way. Because of these unknown circumstances in a final design, the county will make these final determinations regarding culvert installation during the Anoka County Highway Department permitting process. Item 3, bank stabilization. The petitioner will need to stabilize embankment area both on the north and south sides of County State 8 Highway 12 within the existing highway right-of-way, where the new and realigned main trunk will cross County State 8 Highway 12 from north to south to prevent bank erosion within the county right-of-way. Stabilization should include soil stabilization, reinforcement as proposed by the petitioner and acceptable to Anoka County Highway Department permitting process, and to promote soil stabilization and vegetative growth. Anoka County appreciates the opportunity to provide comments regarding the petition. We fully intend to engage in discussions with the district's engineering staff as well as consultants for petitioner as needed to reach resolution on the county's issues regarding this alignment. If you have any questions or would like additional information, please contact me the phone number is given, and this is signed by Jerry Auger, the assistant county highway engineer for Anoka County, with copies to the county engineer, the assistant county attorney, the county surveyor, the county design engineer, the county highway permit staff, and Chris Otterness from Houston, Garrett Munson from Houston, and also to me. The second letter, Madam President, is dated May 8th, 2020. This is also from Mr. Auger and directed to Nick Tomczyk, your administrator. Mr. Tomczyk, in anticipation of the public hearing scheduled for Wednesday, May 13th, 2020, the Anoka County Highway Department provides below comments and requests in lieu of personal or telephonic appearance at the hearing that this submission be submitted and supplemented the written comments provided by the county on March 19th, 2020. The county has reviewed the petition and all relevant property records and the engineering analysis of the district engineers. The county also participated in further discussions with the district engineers and council in an attempt to narrow these issues. County makes the following requests for consideration in the proceeding. Item 1, dedication of an additional 35-foot ditch easement south of County State 8 Highway 12 and adjacent to the existing 40-foot ditch easement on Outlot B of Lexington Meadows. In connection with the realignment of Anoka County Ditch 5362, the county requests that the petitioner dedicate to Rice Creek Watershed District an additional 35-foot easement south of the existing ditch easement within Outlot B, Lot 1, Block 1, Lexington Meadows, Anoka County. A visual depiction of the requested dedication is provided in attachment A to this letter. And Madam President, members of the board, when I'm done reading this, I'll ask that if Chris could cue that up to share that screen with the board, that would be helpful. Because Outlot B is owned by the petitioner and is already encumbered by an overlapping drainage easement in favor of the public, the county believes that such dedication will present minimal burden, if any, to petitioner, as is reasonable to accommodate the petition. This request for additional ditch easement for public benefit and utility upon the present and anticipated land uses in the area. The county has informed the district that there is a likelihood of future road expansion to County State Aid Highway 12. Minnesota Statutes 103E015 requires proper consideration given to all public interests affected by any construction, repair, or other work affecting the public drainage system. The county believes this petition presents an appropriate juncture in which to preserve adequate ditch easement during the realignment process. In granting the petition, the county requests that the district ensure viable options to maintain that are maintained to accommodate all current and future land uses in this area. In making this request, the county acknowledges its separate responsibilities under Minnesota Statute Section 163.17, Chapter 117, and other applicable laws in the event a public ditch system may have to be altered in connection with future roadway improvements. Item number 2, request for findings regarding the designation of the main trunk in Branch 5. The county's second request is simply for inclusion of the following findings in the record of this proceeding. Anoka County understands that the realignment and partial abandonment will include the realignment of main trunk eastward along current alignment of Branch 5 south of County State Aid Highway 12, and in accordance with Houston Engineering Exhibit from stations 3+70 to 13+60, the county requests clarification from the district as to the newly designated main trunk along County State Aid Highway 12 and what impact such design may present and how in the future, both now and in the future, excuse me. The district, through its engineer and council, informed the county that the current designation, the current drainage system is flat with almost zero fall. In drainage systems with zero grade, such as the present system, there is no significance to the designation of main trunk versus branch. The functions will be the same. The district clarified that for the terms used in the petition simply naming conventions for ease in identifying the continuation of the main trunk after realignment. The term main trunk in this case does not impose any greater priority over a branch and neither represents any legal consequence to the drainage system. Anoka County appreciates the opportunity to provide additional comments and requests regarding the petition. If you have any questions or would like additional information, please contact me, and then Jerry gives the phone number at which he can be contacted. And again, the same folks that he copied on his prior letter are copied on this letter. Madam President, that concludes the written comments provided by Anoka County. I think it would be beneficial just to talk through, and I see Chris has this up on the screen right now. What we see is Outlot B, and in the northern part of that would be the alignment of County State Aid Highway 12. There are existing easements over Outlot B. First, Outlot B is already dedicated to drainage and utility. So that's in the plat of the development itself. That dedication is made. Second, Outlot B is encumbered in the southern portion of Outlot B by a conservation easement over an existing wetland complex that exists on Outlot B. And then third, there is an existing, and it's documented, 40-foot easement for the ditch system that exists on the northern boundary of Outlot B. That 40-foot boundary and the ditch itself and what we would consider to be right-of-way of the ditch established by the original establishment of the ditch overlaps with and runs concurrent with the right-of-way of County State Aid Highway 12. And so a few considerations in our discussions with the county on this issue is we will be changing the hydraulic regime of this section of Branch 5 and maybe subjecting it to increased inspection and maintenance requirements. In addition, because of the existence and the location of County State Aid Highway 12 immediately north of the ditch and sharing right-of-way with the ditch, there's no ability for us to ever spread or level spoils to the north of the ditch. Everything has to come to the south. So the county's request is for that additional 35 feet. They have a few different concerns, one being possible future land use and expansion of County State Aid Highway 12. The second being, where do we put the spoil when we have to maintain that? And I think it's in everybody's interest out there that we be able to maintain it effectively, and manage that. So that's the request. And we can address the other issues as to the designation and the consequence of designation, inappropriate findings. And we can also outline this if the board so chooses to go forward with that. But again, Outlot B is already dedicated to drainage and utility purposes. There is a conservation easement in the southern part of the lot that should not be affected by this requested additional dedication. And then this additional dedication would ride immediately adjacent to and next to the existing 40-foot easement for public drainage purposes. And this would be something that, if the board so chose, could be a contingency to the approval of the petitioned action to modify the drainage system. Subject to any questions, Madam President, I'll leave those comments from the county where they lie. We can have more discussion about that during your deliberations.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cole? Any board questions?
President, this Manager Bradley, has the applicant responded to this request?
Chris has had a conversation with Carlson McKean, the consultant for the petitioners. I don't want to speak to that, but they are aware, the petitioner is aware of this request. And I'll let Chris comment as to his conversation with Carlson McKean.
Yes, Manager Bradley. We did have a conversation, as Mr. Kolb indicated, with the petitioner's engineer, and given that the property is already under a drainage and utility easement, the petitioner's engineer indicated that he did not feel like this would be a problem or a burden upon the applicant to provide this easement. But I guess I'll note that the petitioner's engineer is on the line, so it may be good to get his opinion directly on that during the public comment portion.
Okay, any other questions from the board? With that, we'll go to the members of the public that'd like to speak. Please recognize yourself and let us know name, address, and who you are speaking for. And then we'll just go one by one, and please unmute your microphone and proceed. Who would like to speak today? Any from the public that would like to speak today?
I guess I got a couple of questions. Rick from Metro Gun Club.
Okay.
Here in Blaine. I'm right next door to this project.
Can everybody hear Rick all right?
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes, I can hear him.
Yep. Okay,
All right.
go ahead.
Well, first of all, the rerouting is almost, there isn't any choice really. The complex is already there. But what's the advantage of that holding pond?
Right now, we're just going to have you put comments in, and then we'll decide on what comments we can talk about before our discussion. So you're looking for the advantage of the holding pond.
Yeah, and then the rerouting structure there, evidently that's just right across from us. So it's coming across and intersecting with us and moving over to that, well, which has already been realigned on the main trunk 5, right? I mean, well, it has to be rerouted because the buildings are already there, right?
Okay.
So,
any other questions, Rick?
Yeah, is this better?
That's a little better. Yep, please.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand this, like we're maintaining, what did you say was 896 at?
Chris?
Madam President, the elevation of the drainage system at that location is 891.46.
Right there. But I mean, you said somewhere along the line it was at 896. Where was that?
The 896 I was referring to was the top of bank of the property along the ditch where the ditch is to be rerouted on the north side of 109th Avenue.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I got cut off there or whatever. So, okay. Well, that makes sense. So how is this going to affect when Lanier puts in Wellington joined up with that? I was talking to the owner there, Lanier, a while back, and their intentions on that whole the north side of 100 or Highway 12 or North 109th there is supposedly a 3-year project. How is this? Is this going to be enough to accommodate all that new construction there?
Madam President, I can speak to that if you'd like.
Go ahead. Sure.
So one thing to note is that the applicant is creating a number of stormwater features on their property. Those stormwater features are not pertinent to the realignment, and those will be considered, as part of the application for the project. Nonetheless, there are multiple purposes for some of those ponds, including some that are required to meet stormwater ponding requirements under Rice Creek rules, other water quality requirements under Rice Creek rules, and I believe that there are some features on the landscape that are being dug for more of a purpose to claim additional material to build up the site with, as was done on the other site to the south, Lexington Meadows. So I think that there are multiple purposes for these, and each of those are addressed within the engineer's report related to the permit. But again, I don't believe that any of those really are pertinent to the realignment, because the realignment is going to be going along the outside of those features.
So it won't affect that dip that's along Metro Gun Club there at all. Then it's not gonna enhance that or make that a stronger water flow. It'll follow the line that you've got on there now into that new, by the folding pond there, that new trunk there.
Yeah, that is correct. The realignment is designed in order to essentially provide a identical service for the benefit of landowners on the system. So it will function very similarly. And again, because it's a flat system, the primary change is the location of the system and the names of the designated branches, rather than being a change to its functional capacity.
So let me understand this holding pond then that hooks up to that main trunk. I was told by, I think it was Mr. Tomczyk, that it did not affect the final flowage at 891.46 through the weir system and into the culvert system in the end. That it was just there to hold the extra overflow and control the flow. Is that true?
That is correct. Any of the ponds that are located out there are designed to manage water within that site itself. They're not intended to manage water along the drainage system.
Okay. All right. Well, it just looks kind of overwhelming, when you're looking at it,
Does that answer your questions, Rick? Rick, does that answer all your questions?
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I just asked if that answers your questions.
Yeah, it does for now. And then, but the other question I had is that you don't feel any need to lower the end result at 890 and eliminate the weirs.
Madam President, in answer to that question, the district does not have the ability to lower the elevation of the drainage system without undertaking an improvement proceedings. Now it would have to occur separately, and that is something that the district has not had a reason to yet to explore. But right now, the current drainage system is at an elevation of 891.46, and that is the elevation with which any realignment would need to occur.
Yeah, that is my understanding. That's why I asked the other question. Okay, so at this point, you don't feel any need to do that? Or you don't have the capacity to do it? I guess that answers my question.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that'd like to comment today? Please speak up. Make sure your microphone is on. Name and address for the record. Anybody else out there that'd like to comment regarding this ditch?
President Preiner, this is Administrator Tomczak. I will note that Joseph Radich from Carlson McCain made note in the chat section that he can confirm that Wellington, Lexington Meadows LLC is okay with the addition. It kind of cuts off on my screen, but if he is on the line, I'm sure you might want to welcome his verbal.
Yeah, so Joe Raddick with Carlson McCain. Does everybody hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you. I can confirm that that Wellington Management, which is one and the same as Lexington Meadows LLC, the landowner to the south of 109th, is okay with adding the additional easement requested by the Ditch Authority.
Any other comments, Mr. Radish?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak today? Anybody else that'd like to comment regarding our public hearing? Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and continue. And if you have anything else in writing, you can submit it to the districts and we'll make arrangements for its delivery. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we can have discussion as to how we want to go forward. That would be on page 5 of my statement. And we're going to be looking for a recommendation from the board.
Yes, President Preiner, this is Administrator Tomczak. Just as a comment, you noted people submitting things to the district. Staff would suggest the board can consider what date they might accept any further written comments for. In past proceedings, you have at times proceeded right into an order when the events suggested it was ready for that. Here under COVID-19 and in technology, we're suggesting maybe May 15th until the end of the week if anyone has additional written comments. And then the board could consider a draft order on May 27th, which is your regular meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
May 15th doesn't even give someone time to get it in the mail and mailed to us. We have to go a little farther than that.
Okay.
Do you have a date in mind, Manager Wall? Manager Wall, yeah. Manager Bradley.
Well, I think either next Tuesday if we could.
Okay. The date on that is what?
That would be the 19th.
Okay. You want to go ahead and make that recommendation on the action?
Madam President, I move that we allow further comments to recognize the difficulty of communicating with us at this time, and that any further written comments be presented, whether they're by email or otherwise, by May 19th at 5 o'clock, 2020.
Okay. And then set a date to finalize our hearing on May 27th.
Yes, and that we would actually rule on this matter on the 27th, or take it up on the 27th.
Okay. We have a second?
Madam President, I'll settle that, second that. I assume that you mean 5 p.m. on the 19th, Mike.
Yes, I did. I
Yeah,
should
you
have
did.
gone 1700.
1700, yeah. I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set it for written comments for May 19th at 5 p.m. And we'll set our regular meeting date of May 27th to continue this hearing. Okay, so right now we will recess this hearing and that'll come back up on the 27th for us, I believe. Okay, let me get my notes here. So the next thing on the agenda is our permit application requiring board action for Alliance Bank in Blaine. And with that, I'm going to recuse myself because I might have a possible conflict. I don't know that I will, but just for safety's sake. Manager Bradley, would you please? Oh, wait a minute, we didn't finish voting. Oh, we got to finish voting on our motion. We had a motion and a second to add the comments and also the final date. And with that, we'll need any further comment. We'll do a roll call. Manager Waller?
Yes.
Manager Wynant?
Yes.
Manager Bradley?
Yes.
Manager Wageman?
Yes.
And I agree. So we'll recess and continue on. Okay, with that, like I said, I will recuse myself and let Manager Bradley do it.
Very good. Mr. Tomzak, do you want to take this next item up or should we go directly to Patrick Hughes?
Patrick Hughes is prepared for the proceedings.
Please proceed,
Board
Patrick.
managers. Yeah, next on the agenda here is the permit application items requiring board action. That starts on page 94 of the packet. Immediately following is the engineer's report for the North Meadows application. I do have two proposed changes as the ER is in the packet. The first one would be on page 97. Oh, actually, yeah, there we go. Yep, on page 97, we would add in a new compliance item, number 14. This would bring the total amount of compliance items up to 21. That new item would read, applicant must submit a copy of the final dewatering plan. This would be consistent with how we have done, other applications adjacent to the public drainage system. And then the other one would be on page 102 of the packet. This is simply, I'm just noting here, once the floodplain section starts, section number 4, the spacing just gets kind of weird, and they added in a number 5. I'll just make the correction to make that one consistent paragraph.
Would you repeat that, Patrick? What are you doing?
Yep. So on page 102 here, section 4 for floodplain, where it ends on that first line of NAVD, 88 should continue there on that next line. That number 5 is an error. It should all be one consistent paragraph. Erosion control, where that is number 6, should be number 5. So I'll just make the correction, take the spaces out of there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And so if there aren't any comments on the engineer's report, we can move into the variance request. Okay. Yeah, so if I can have Chris Hotterness with Houston Engineering kind of introduce us here into the technical memo for the variance request, and then we can work through, the criteria.
Sure. I'll provide a quick summary of the project. The project is located on 173 acres plus or minus in the Anoka County Ditch 5362 Comprehensive Wetland Protection and Management Plan, or CWPMP, boundary of Blaine, and they're proposing to construct a mixed-use commercial residential development. Western portion of the site will be developed as single-family and twin-home residential lots, and the eastern part of the site will be developed as townhomes, as well as a mass grading of 3 different lots, approximately 8.4 acres for future commercial development. The future commercial development will require a separate permit. That's not part of this current proceeding. The site currently consists of grassland, wetlands, and the main trunk of an County Ditch 5362. The development will increase the impervious surface on site from 0 acres to 29.6 acres and will disturb approximately 105 acres. 46 acres on the western side of the property and 49 on the eastern side of County Ditch 5362. The project includes a realignment of the main trunk of 5362, which we've just discussed. All runoff from the site will drain to the County Ditch 5362 main trunk before draining to Golden Lake, the resource of concern. Proposed stormwater treatment for the project consists of 8 infiltration basins and 3 stormwater ponds designed to NERC standards. Proposed application is compliant with all other Rice Creek rules.
Okay, with that, we can jump into the variance criteria. So the first one here, criterion A, is how substantial the variation is in relation to district rule requirements.
Sure, and I realized as I went here that I'd never introduced what variance we're discussing. We're discussing a variance from Rule F6E1, which requires that a wetland buffer consist of non-invasive vegetative land. And we've evaluated this request per Rice Creek Rule L for permit 19110. In the request for variance, as I identified in exhibit dated October 17, 2019, and initial received on October 22nd, 2019. Regarding practical criteria A, again, which is
Chris, sorry if I could
sorry.
jump in. I think Manager Wynant had a comment.
Sure.
Manager Bradley, Chris, could you put up on the screen what we have on page 112, the map for the design? As we go through this, it'd be helpful to look at that full screen.
Okay.
Chris?
Patrick, do you happen to have that up on your screen?
I don't think I have it available. I can get it here in a second.
Actually, I got it here. I'll pop it up here. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, regarding criteria A, the applicant has not wholly met the non-invasive buffer vegetation requirement under Rule FCE1. The applicant is proposing a wetland management corridor totaling 43.2 acres. The applicant is proposing 0.4 acres of native non-invasive dominated buffer, 0.15 of these acres south of a pond 201, or that's also labeled as Lake 201 on the figure that you see on the screen here, and 0.25 acres north and west of pond 301, denoted as Lake 301 on the screen here. Just a note here, these constructed water features are labeled as quote unquote lakes in the figure, but these features are not state public waters or any other designation that would place limits on the management of the public drainage system. So I just wanted to make that clear that I wouldn't consider these to be, quote unquote lakes under any sort of a state type of definition. The vegetative management plan for these features is found in the wetland application permit. The applicant is proposing to vary from the non-native dominated buffer requirement for the remaining upland buffer portion of the wetland management corridor area, totaling 21.91 acres. The request for variance is due to the invasive dominated adjacent wetlands, both on-site and off the site to the north and west, creating an unsustainable condition for the restoration of upland buffer to a native non-invasive condition. So in other words, we already have invasive species that are located adjacent to the site. It's going to be very difficult to, if not, well, it's going to be infeasible to try to be able to maintain native vegetation in these areas they're proposing. Other than Rule F6E1, the applicant will meet the remaining provisions of the buffer requirements, including the minimum and average width requirements.
Okay, criterion B, the effect the variance would have on government services.
Per criteria B, the issuance of the variance for the North Meadows project is not expected to increase flooding or have a negative effect on government services.
Criterion C, whether the variance will affect a substantial change in the character of the watershed resources or will be a substantial detriment to neighboring properties.
So as always, we look at a few different criteria, the first of which is water quality, defining the quantity of pollutants such as phosphorus or suspended sediment leaving the site and potential for degrading water quality downstream. Second criteria would be the presence of and potential impact of special impaired water bodies as defined by various laws, including the Pollution Control Agency's stormwater program, and whether a water body is impaired or a related designation, including wild and scenic or outstanding natural resource value designation. And then the third criteria is flooding, the potential for flood damages or adverse impact. In assessing the changes of the water resources, we look at a number of different criteria, including whether it's a 103 or 303D listed water body or impaired water, high quality or non-degraded wetland, a federally designated threatened or endangered species, or state threatened endangered species, whether it's in a scientific or natural area defined by the Minnesota DNR, other resources protected from non-degradation as identified in Rule 7050-081, and other generally sensitive resources. The proposed variance on the buffer requirement for this particular application will have minimal effect on the adjacent wetland resources. The existing wetland on site, the upland buffer, and the surrounding lands to the north, south, and west of the property are composed of ditch drain peatlands, resulting in extensive areas dominated by monocultures of the invasive species reed canary grass, which in this landscape setting, which is again drained peatlands, is highly difficult to manage. Applicant is not proposing on-site mitigation. Therefore, the buffer standards would require the applicant to restore the upland buffer to non-invasive vegetation, with the surrounding lands remaining a monoculture of the invasive species. These areas would continue to contribute to the native invasive population. The management of a non-invasive upland buffer strip within the majority of the wetland management corridor would be non-sustainable as a long-term condition. To be a sustainable condition, the wetland and uplands on site and the adjacent properties to the north and west would need to undergo aggressive restoration activities simultaneously. Since these adjacent properties to the north, south, and west are not under the ownership of the project proposer, this is not a feasible option. Additionally, the applicant is collecting and treating the majority of the project runoff from the newly created impervious surface via NERP stormwater ponds and infiltration basins, so minimal direct runoff will enter the wetland without treatment. Golden Lake, which receives the project drainage downstream, is listed on the Section 303D impaired water list. The effective designated use is aquatic recreation with a pollutant or a stressor of nutrient eutrophication biological indicators. As the invasive vegetation is an existing condition, the variance will not have an effect on Golden Lake. There are no high quality or non-degraded wetlands as identified in the CWPMP within the project area or near the project area. The applicant has identified the presence of a state-listed threatened species on site that's named, and I know I'm going to butcher this, Viola lanceolata, and has submitted for a take permit from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. State-listed threatened and endangered species are a consideration of the Wetland Conservation Act permit, and the project will not occur without the issuance of a takings permit. There are no scientific and natural areas within or near the project area. Other considerations related to this criteria C would be whether the project will cause or contribute to a change in 100-year floodplain elevation, whether it will increase the frequency or magnitude of flood damages or increase the hardship downstream from peak flow or flood duration. This proposed variance for the buffer requirements will have no effect on flood elevations. So therefore, the applicant has complied with the Rule C stormwater requirements for peak rate and water quality and are meeting this criteria C.
Okay, I will add here that the applicant has been granted their take permit from the DNR. They have submitted that to us already. Per criterion D, whether the practical difficulty can be alleviated by a feasible method other than a variance.
So in consideration of this criteria, we note that economic considerations play a role in analysis under this factor. The applicant has indicated that the project cannot be built without the variance, as the required short and long-term intensive management work that would be necessary to maintain a non-invasive upland buffer within the majority of the wetland management corridor would result in an undue hardship. And again, as we noted, they don't have control over those areas that are located onto the properties that have these invasive species.
Criterion E, how the practical difficulty occurred, including whether the landowner created the need for the variance.
In consideration of this criteria, the district engineer finds that the current landowner did not complete actions prior to applying for the permit, which caused this situation, which led to implied practical difficulty. The existing degraded plant community was not caused by the landowner. Rather, the need for the variance is created by the fact that the buffer is surrounded by other property not within the applicant's control that is well-established invasive species that make it impossible or financially infeasible to establish and maintain a native seed. Thus, the variance is created by the proposed project rule requirements.
And finally, criterion F, whether in light of all of the above factors, allowing the variance will serve the interests of justice.
As always, this criteria lies largely in the board's domain, as involves judgments of a non-technical nature. One criteria that can be used for assessing this portion of the practical difficulty standard is the ability or inability of other permit applicants with similar conditions to comply with the district buffer requirements of Rule F6E1. Other applicants have had the ability to feasibly meet these requirements on site because of the site constraints presented here were not evident in previous applications.
Patrick,
I guess at this time we can open it up for any questions or comments from the board.
Any questions or comments from any board members?
Manager Bradley.
Yes.
This is Administrator Tomczak. I think it might be important that the record is clear in regarding those areas designated as lakes or lake and then the numeral identifier. Chris, you noted that they weren't public waters by definition of the term. Could you make reference, either Patrick or Chris, in regards to a future maintenance obligation of the district or the landowner that exists if those areas should become sedimented in?
Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, in addressing that question, the district would not have a responsibility associated with those areas that they have identified on this map as quote unquote lakes. And again, you know, as Administrator Tomczyk alluded to, these are not listed or will not be listed or sort of any sort of state criteria standards being a quote unquote lake. That's, I believe, the designation that the applicant used just to identify that they are essentially larger water features on the site that are not necessarily being used to meet permit stormwater requirements.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Manager Bradley, this is Manager Wynett. Early on, there were two on the line from the city of Blaine, Rebecca and Mark Hall. Are they still on? And the question would be, have building permits already been issued by the city for this?
Great Creek board members, this is Rebecca Howe with the city of Blaine. I am still on. Building permits have not been issued by the city yet. It is still going through review at the city and waiting for Rice Creek Board to approve.
Thank you. And then this last question that, or issue that Manager Tomczyk said, is there management? Let's see, who then is responsible for the management of those lakes and when they end up getting filled up? Who's responsible for the maintenance of it?
Manager Bradley?
Yes, sir.
Manager Wynett, just to be clear, it's Administrator Tomczyk here. Yeah, to the bodies of the items labeled as lakes, I believe their purpose is excavation for sand material, borrow pit, if you will, and they will be inundated with groundwater and fill. So Chris has made quite clear that it is not a maintenance obligation of the district, as it might be if it had some sort of alignment with public drainage system. But again, it does not, it is not a management issue for the district. It is not a stormwater facility, so it is not subject to the landowner or the city to maintain it. And perhaps the city would like to comment on how it views these facilities and what, if any, responsibility it has, or how these might progress into the future.
And this is Rebecca Haug again with the City of Blaine Water Resources Manager. We have quite a few of these on throughout the City of Blaine, and we check to make sure that culverts are functioning properly, store pipes are functioning properly, but other than that, we don't do a whole lot of monitoring or maintenance of these ponds once they are created. We do inform residents that these are not recreational water bodies, discouraging recreating on these basins.
Administrator Tomczyk, this is Manager Bradley. You said that these are being excavated mainly for fill purposes, obtaining fill materials. Does that mean they are not BMPs?
That is correct. Their purpose is simply a convenient area to obtain earthen material suitable for the construction of the hard surfaces. That would be my understanding.
So I would conclude there was not a maintenance requirement with regard to these ponds, if they're not a BMP.
That is correct.
Okay. So that should take care of your concerns, Manager Wynett.
Manager Bradley?
Yes, John.
So the nomenclature is kind of confusing here. Maybe add an issue about the maintenance. Would it be, this has been a very good verbal conversation. Could we have that conversation documented with some kind of a written explanation added to the record? So that we know in the future, you know, an asterisk at the bottom, it says, this isn't a lake, it's not a BMP, it's a, et cetera, as Nick has described it. Would that be appropriate?
Manager Bradley, Manager Waller, one thing we did include in our engineer's report related to the variance, a note that indicated that, again, these were not lakes as would be identified under state statute or as identified as a public water under state statute. I believe we also have something in the engineer's report, if I'm not mistaken, that also notes that as well. So we have recognized that, you know, in previous applications that has been a concern, and certainly we don't want people to get the improper idea of what these water features are and what their purpose is. And certainly if there's additional ways to address that within our engineer's report, we can certainly do that.
So this is Manager Bradley.
Board managers. Sorry if I might, on page 99 of the packet, this is part of the stormwater requirements section. At the end of the table, it does list ponds 101, 201, and 301, and it does indicate that they are not used for water quality. I suppose we could, you know, add an additional language, you know, that clarifies that they're not required for Rule C requirements and not under a maintenance obligation.
This is Manager Bradley. I think that would be wise to eliminate the concern that someone's going to raise later when they do start filling in, that there's not an obligation by somebody to excavate them again.
So Manager Bradley.
Manager Wagaman, I agree with Manager Bradley. It's easy to put on there now.
Exactly. So when it comes time to make a motion, I would suggest that whoever makes that motion include that.
Manager Bradley, additional thought there would be to also amend instead of leave pond 101, but then maybe reference the nomenclature of the plan set and, you know, lake 101, just so there's clarity between the two.
So Manager Bradley, this is Manager Wynett again. I'm
Yes.
a little confused then. No surprise. If this development had 0 acres of impervious surface, and now we're talking at almost 30 acres, where is the mitigation coming from? Is it the stormwater ponds that, and if so, can you point, the map is just too little. Where are the stormwater ponds?
Mr. Annis?
Yeah, Manager Wynett, yeah, there are actually 8 different infiltration basins and 3 other stormwater ponds. So I'm not, can you, well, it might be, okay, maybe you can see my cursor here now on the west side of the plat, or the left side of the screen. Yep. I am pointing to a pond here. And then there are a couple of infiltration basins here as well. That's one example. If we go over to the east side, there's another one here where my pointer is showing here now. That is just to the east of where that Lake 101 is identified on the screen here. And again, in total, there are 3 stormwater ponds and 8 infiltration basins that are handling the stormwater. And those all occur prior to water going into these water features they have designated as Lake 101, 201, and 301.
Manager Wynett, Board of Managers, on page 114 of the packet, there's a generalization of where those you know, stormwater features are, just kind of put on an aerial photo. It's not a grading plan, but it shows where the location would be.
And that's enough to replace the 23 acres, huh? Okay.
Manager Bradley, Manager Wynett, for clarity, both Chris and Patrick are referring to stormwater rule requirements, so water quality and rate control. Perhaps you are referencing wetland impacts on the property. Wetland impacts are being mitigated through an off-site wetland bank.
Okay, that answers that. Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay. Is there anyone on the telephone from the developer or otherwise who wants to comment on this issue? Not this, but on whether we grant a variance or not. Hearing none, can I have a motion then with regard to approval or non-approval of the variance request? Oh boy. Page 94 of the packet.
Manager Bradley, I'll move that we approve the variance request, application 19110, as outlined in accordance with the Rice Creek Watershed District Engineers Variance Technical Memorandum dated May 6, 2020, with the additions of a nomenclature clarification and the definition of what those lakes or areas are and what responsibilities for those bodies of water are and are not.
Manager Waller, this is Manager Bradley. I believe that second addition will go to the second motion, which is to approve the application. I don't think that question goes directly to the variance. So I propose we just limit it to the variance at this point. Is there a second?
I would second that. This is Manager
Is there
White.
any discussion? Do a roll call. Manager Waller.
Yes.
Manager Weiner.
Yes.
Manager Wagaman.
Yes.
And this is Manager Bradley. Yes, also. So now, John, I entertain a motion, if you would, with regard to the permit and its modification of the requirements.
Yes, Manager Bradley, I'll move that permit application 19110 be approved as outlined in the May 6, 2020 memo, with the addition of language to clarify the nomenclature about the lakes and what the responsibilities are for those lakes and are not, such as they're not a BMP and there's no maintenance requirement, and that the background is like is described by Administrator Tomzak as a borrow pond area.
Very good. Is there a second?
This is Manager Wynett. I'd second it.
Any discussion?
Manager Bradley, for clarity to the managers and in the record, I'll just note that one of the CAPROC items is that the public drainage system petition is required in order for the project to move total. So once again, the two are linked together. One cannot proceed without the other.
And by that, I take it that we've not yet approved the actual BMPs being requested here, or have we? I thought we would.
This action would approve the project under Rice Creek permitting, but it has not yet been ordered under Rice Creek as a drainage authority. And so the district knits the two together so that, one cannot proceed without the other. So the applicant would get approval of the permit, could work on the conditional items, one of which is the subsequent order and decision of the drainage authority, Rice Creek.
So I need clarity.
I'm sorry.
Decision of us as a drainage authority with regard to what?
The petition to realign the system, the public hearing you just had. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Now I understand.
Yep. Sorry for the confusion.
Thank you for the clarity.
Manager Bradley?
Yes.
So I'm not sure if I missed this or not, but I don't recall hearing in the motion anything about the additional condition that we had recommended for the applicant providing the dewatering, final dewatering plan.
That's correct. Yeah, you did mention that dewatering plan. That was, it was one of Patrick's corrections, wasn't it?
Yep.
Well, I'll amend the motion to include those corrections that were submitted, such as on page 102, and with the item number, the spacing issue, and the, there's a moment now, I can't find it.
Page 96, Manager Waller, item 4.
Thank you, 96.
Yep.
I'm going through it backwards, yeah. 96, a new 14, and then they renumbered the rest of them all the way down to 21. Yeah, would be included in that. I'll amend my motion, Manager Bradley.
Manager Wynant?
And I'd second that amendment.
Thank you very much, Chris.
So with that, we'll do a roll call. Manager Waller?
Yes.
Manager Wynant?
Yes.
Manager Wagaman?
Yes.
And Manager Bradley says yes also. And with that, I happily turn this back to Pat Priner.
Manager Bradley, should we just note for the record that President Priner abstained from both of those votes so that the minutes will reflect that?
Thank you.
And
okay. Well, thank you, Manager Bradley.
Madam President, this
Yes.
is Marcy again. Before we move from that, Nick, could you just help me in this documentation? Where would I have found that the wetland was mitigated off-site? Is it something I missed? Was it recorded?
Yes.
I think it's in there, because I think I saw it.
It's
President
probably in there.
Priner.
Yes.
President Priner, Board of Managers, your wetland items are described within the engineer's report. Specific to your question, that would be on page 100 of your packet. It's item number 3. It goes through and discusses the process under the Wetland Conservation Act. And I see it on page 102 as that item carries over. It would be the second to the last block of text. It starts, wetland replacement will occur. Page 102.
Yeah, the wetland bank account. Okay.
Yeah, there's multiple accounts there. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All set? Hey, thank you, everyone. We'll go on to open mic. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to any other issues? If so, please state your name and address and speak. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to go ahead then. Items requiring board action, the check register.
Madam President, I move to approve the check register dated May 13th, 2020 in the amount of $48,847.42 prepared by Redpath and Company.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Manager Wegman, second by Manager Bradley. Any further discussion? Roll call, be Manager Waller.
Yes.
Manager Wynant.
Yes.
Manager Bradley.
Yes.
Manager Wagaman.
Yes.
And I say yes, so we'll move forward. Thank you. Next thing is district engineer update, page 117 or 117. Any comments on that? Chris, anything new to update us on?
Madam President, other than what I have in the report, I don't have any other updates, but certainly can answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? If not, we're going to go to the administrator update that we had talked about.
Yes, President Priner, Board of Managers, I do have a number of items. In regards to the watershed management plan, that is under distribution. That is both electronically and hard copies, some of which are required to specific agencies in our libraries and such. I do at this time want to ask if there's any wants, if you will, of the managers for additional hard copies for anyone that they're aware of. Let me please clarify. We have printed a hard copy for use by each manager. I'll note that the plan is available electronically. It's on our website and such. If you want to retain a copy for yourself at home, that's fine. If not, we're happy to keep it at the office and we will share it with you, you know, should there be a meeting or a need for you to have it in front of you. So either way there. Beyond that, if you'd like one for a county commissioner or something like that, where you think it'd be better to have a paper copy, I just kind of want to ask here. They're $250 a piece to print, and
Whoa.
we'd like to just, you know, do it once and be good with it. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
You want to do a roll call, Pat?
Okay, so wait a minute. So what do we need, a roll call to say that we want to just accept
Well, no,
it?
so you ask which, for example, manager.
Oh, if
Bradley
anybody,
would like-
if anybody
I would like
wants.
to have my personal copy, and I would like to have it in my home so that I can refer to it when I'm studying issues as they come up.
Okay, so we need
I'm
one.
sorry about the $250.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Bradley. I'd like a copy also. This is Manager Wagaman. Same reasons.
Okay.
Manager Waller?
I'd like a copy, hard copy at home for the same reasons, and I had a request from Commissioner Muron for a hard copy for himself.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I suppose I need a hard copy too.
Yeah, same reading, but yes, I would like a copy, a hard copy. And I think I'll wait on the county commissioner because he could probably do electronically. He'd be just as happy, so he can borrow mine if he needs it.
Very good. That, I'll just let you know, that's consistent with our initial printing ideas. So it's not an additional $250. We, like I said, certainly it's best for each manager to have one available to them as these issues come up. President Preiner, if I could, with additions here.
Go ahead.
We did have on the workshop the Anoka County information action request, if you will, with the commissioner. I have discussed that with Mr. Otterness over at Houston Engineering. There is likely to be a slight cost with that, but I believe we can certainly pull those into our rule revision discussions if that's what the board would like, which I understood the board to like, I should say. Some of these items have, you know, a legal side to them and such, and we'll engage your counsel accordingly for those discussions. Some of those items do have a little bit of challenge, but I think they'll come out in the analysis from Houston and with legal. So I'll leave it at that unless there's questions.
Okay, so you're thinking of taking the list that was provided by the commissioner and fulfilling those requests.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the only thing I was thinking to do a little differently, or maybe we should wait for this then. I was thinking to have the discussion about the debt forgiveness. But what I wanted for that was the actual numbers, how many people would be forgiven, what would it cost us to do that, and what would be the impacts, and maybe that would come through the attorney and the engineer. I would like to have some kind of just a meeting about that.
Okay.
I don't know what everybody else feels.
Yeah.
I agree.
President Preiner, this is Bradley. I don't think until we decide what we want to do, I don't know how Houston Industries could respond to that. So I think you're right. We should have a separate discussion item on it. And I am open and interested in that topic.
Okay. President Preiner, Manager Bradley, if I could, I think that's entirely possible. I think we should have probably a special workshop, if you will, on these items as we gather it together. What staff does not want to do is put forth a general direction at the city-county partner meeting, which isn't in alignment with your first thoughts on the matter. We should have a little bit of rudder, if you will, hand on the rudder here on that we're all in alignment with where we're headed. So we're happy to gather that together, and maybe we have a special meeting, or bear with me here, because we have our city-county partner meeting on the 27th, which aligns with your board meeting. I suppose we could have it as an informational item on the May 27th meeting, and then move into the city-county partner meeting in the afternoon. Obviously, that would be tight for any additional discussion or development, but I would share with you that this is all early in the rule revision we're trying to make. We wanted to let our partners know where we were headed, in which they would have an understanding, maybe express some additional interest, and with all of that, we would begin a deeper dive in the drafting and in which way we were headed.
Well, I'm kind of thinking, I kind of think that would be crowded for that day. I don't think we'd have time for a good discussion about it. Is it possible to do, here's what I was thinking. I was thinking of doing a workshop, half of the administrative review, and that could go closed if we want, and then half on this other issue of the forgiveness of debt. And the reason why is because I think we need a little more time to look at that. I'd like to know like I said, what the potential, what's the watershed's liabilities to it, what to other communities, I'd like to know the exact facts on it, how it developed, over time. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts are. And Nick, I'm just a little bit afraid it's crowded for one day.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So how much time, Madam President, how much time would Nick need to prepare for that?
Well, President Preiner, Manager Bradley, Mr. Otterness, I'm sure you're on the line listening as well. At this point, maybe we could pull things by mid next week to hold a meeting on the, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of next week. As I noted, we'd have to engage Smith Partners on that as well.
Madam President, I did have one thing on that. A lot of what we're doing for the commissioners is kind of duplicative with exactly what we were discussing at the workshop. And I'm just not sure. I don't know if I understand exactly how we're doing this. I mean, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and end up doing it twice. I mean, we have a process we're going through from we've been following through a process before this even started. Right. And I'm just not sure how we go about giving them answers before we have our answers. Do you understand what I'm saying?
President Preiner, if I could, Manager Wagaman, Board of Managers, I would agree that you cannot release the answers until you have answers.
Yeah.
And you have entered into a task order with Houston Engineering for rule revision or consider of changes. Those, as you know, originated with a number of variances and any number of additional housekeeping items, and we shared some of those with you at the workshop. You have now had a additional request started by a number of cities and some coordination with a specific, county commissioner, which is fine. And I am now just expressing to you to try and wrap those items all into a single basket for that discussion. The outcome is unknown to us, Manager Wagaman, you're correct, but we should be analyzing it all together. And my point is there's additional cost, and there's likely some things we'll need some clarity from the board on. Excuse me. In particular, we want to be well positioned in our communications with the cities at the city-county partner meeting.
Well, I'm more comfortable now that I understand where we're at. I thought we were getting farther down the road, and now I understand what you're saying, and that makes total sense to me. So,
Madam President, this is Manager Bradley. It seems to me that the debt issue is not a rulemaking issue. The debt issue is a standalone, separate question.
That's the way I
should address separately. So I would ask whether or not maybe Monday, May 25th would work. 1 o'clock meeting or something.
That would be fine with me.
I'll be 1 second.
Is that Memorial Day?
Yeah, that's Memorial Day.
What the heck? I'm not going anywhere.
It's hard to keep the days straight anymore.
Doesn't matter. I don't think the staff would want to be on.
Well, obviously not.
Well, pick another time, or
well,
I guess
on Mike's boat?
Can
we do it on Mike's boat up on?
I'm not sure Mike's boat's going to go in.
Oh,
that's another issue that's keeping me up at night.
Well, it's up to the board as a whole. Whatever you think. If we can get this discussion started, I would like a little more basis.
We do need to do also. We need to meet about the administrator, and
or we can vote right now to close our session and go ahead on that if we want to do it now. We can do that.
So let's deal with one at a time. Let's do. So when would be a good day if we are going to deal with this debt issue separately?
Well, if we can get the research in on it, I'm good any day. I'm Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I just can't do Monday and Tuesday.
Of next week, yeah.
Of next week.
So I don't know if they can be ready by Friday or not, but I'm not going to be anywhere.
For clarity, Friday the 22nd, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Or even Thursday if somebody wants a 4-day weekend.
It doesn't matter to me. I just would like it discussed thoroughly before we get to the city county.
I suggest May 26th.
So
26th would be Tuesday, right before the meeting.
Yeah. Could do it
May 26th, are you talking?
Just
right now.
Perfect. Like a chicken hunting and pecking.
Yeah, that works for me too.
It's up to the staff if we can have the information available and ready. Because there was a big sound of silence when we brought that subject up the other day, so.
Yeah.
Madam President?
Yes, Manager Waller.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the 26th, but I would like to have an advanced copy of whatever this debit credit is. That wasn't in the very excellent packet we had for the workshop. It was brought up, later on. And so I think that's kind of important to see which cities own and which don't. And
yeah, that's what I just recommended, John, that we make sure that we have the data as to where we are with it, what our liabilities are.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. So that's it wasn't in it. It was just something they snapped up, and so.
Well, that's what we should be discussing at whatever meeting we line
up. I
know.
I'd like to see an advanced copy of it before the meeting. So.
Very good. President Preiner, Administrator Tomczak here. So to the meeting, the 26th, does appear doable for me. Chris Otterness, I'd like you to confirm because of your involvement, as well as Patrick Hughes, if you could.
Yes, that's fine for me.
And I imagine.
Was that clock?
Pardon, Manager Wagaman?
I'm sorry, I missed the time. Was it 1 o'clock? I was out of the room getting my iPad.
No,
Nick, why don't you set the time since you're the one who's got the most to do here?
Thank you. President Preiner, I would suggest that we convene on Tuesday, the 26th at 9 a.m. And I would set the time from 9 until 11 a.m. I see Chris has come up on my screen. Chris, does that time work for you? Patrick, I'd ask you the same. And then Lewis Smith, if you have any availability yourself or for Mr. Holtman, because I certainly believe there are some legal aspects to this.
Yes, that would work for me.
Works for me. This is Patrick.
And this is Lewis. We'll make it work.
Yeah, I just think, and I would really like as much detail as possible, please.
Very good.
Okay.
We will, I got to make my own note now, just a minute. Tuesday, the 26th, 9 to 11 a.m. virtual meeting on rule revision, but more specifically to the Anoka County, I'll call them Anoka County city requests. I will have those in the agenda. We will have the stormwater debit credit list in the agenda. And then any materials that we put together that might be helpful for the discussion.
Okay.
I just want to note that I'm not interested in seeing us going through all of the Anoka County stuff at this point. I was just only looking for the debit credit issue, plus apparently the administrative review.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, I agree with Manager Bradley about that.
Okay. All right, so that'll be the way it works, and then it'll be posted for administrative review. Is there anything else we need on that?
President Preiner, the administrator review is on the agenda today.
It is, it's whether or not, does everybody want to go ahead and make a motion to close our meeting and and then I guess, Nick, do you want to be present?
Yes, I would like feedback from the board. I think that'd be productive. If I could just, in regards to the administrator comments, I'll just note that I did follow up on yesterday's or Monday's workshop and with the city of Hugo. I'm still to get in contact with Circle Pines. We've advanced the RCD4 draft WMD to Roseville, and we continue to work on that city-county partnership item. So that's administrator updates on the agenda, and we can go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, managers updates. Anybody have anything like to update? Manager Bradley?
Nothing.
Manager Wagaman?
Nothing.
Manager Winan?
I have nothing.
Manager Waller?
Nothing.
And I have nothing. So with that, I'll need a motion to adjourn. And then we'll move to a closed session regarding administrative review.
Madam President, you would first go into the closed session and then adjourn at the end.
Oh, we got to go the other way around here.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So now it'd be appropriate to have a motion of the board to consider a closed session for the purpose of evaluating the administrator.
I would make a motion.
Madam President, I move that we close the meeting so that we can go into an evaluation of the administrator.
Okay, we got to do it the other way around, Manager Bradley.
How's that?
We're supposed to go ahead and continue our meeting in a closed session, and then we have to come back to our regular meeting to just give the results, if I'm right.
I thought that's what I was doing, but I will rephrase it.
I don't know.
So,
Okay.
Madam President, I request that we continue the meeting, but in a closed session so that we may do an evaluation of the administrator.
And a second, Manager Wynick?
I'd second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Manager Waller?
Yes,
Manager Wynick?
Yes.
Manager Bradley?
Yes.
Manager Wagaman?
Yes.
And President Preiner says yes, so we will move to our closed session.
And Pat, may I request 2 seconds? I need a bathroom break before